Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope everybody is ready for the lesson today. Welcome back to our English class. I hope everybody is settled down and, of course, comfortable enough to listen all throughout our lesson for this evening. Now, for this evening, we're going to continue with the rest of the vocabulary about transportation. Again, we're going to continue with transportation vocabulary, which is our lesson 10 for this class. Sorry. I am so sorry if there are times that I may be pausing because I have an itchy throat. But anyway, please bear with me all throughout our session. I will always try to really deliver the lesson as much as possible because you deserve it. Anyway, again, as I've mentioned, we're going to continue with the transportation vehicle or transportation vocabulary. Uh, we're going to continue or start with public transportation. Again, public transportation. What do we mean by public transportation? Anyone? You can always use the chat box for any kind of responses that you want to share to everyone. I will constantly check it so as to really acknowledge any kind of responses you might be sharing to us. Okay, again, you can use the chat box for what? For sharing or for asking questions, for sharing your answers, anything. I will constantly check it so as to really acknowledge you and your answer or your response. Okay? All right. Again, let's go back. What is public transportation? How do you define public transportation? If not public transportation, it's also called transit, transit, transit. What do we mean by transit? As you've noticed or as you've learned, transit or public transportation, it is a shared passenger transport services which is available to the general public. Okay? General public, so to everyone. That is public transportation because public means everyone, no? Common people, which includes the following: subway, taxi, tram, monorail, cable car, and even trolley. Okay, so it typically operate on fixed routes with there's this set fares depending on the location that you are going to go. Okay, so that is a public transportation or transit. Now, these six are just some of the many examples of transit. Let's start with the subway. Subways are efficient for city travel. Okay, what is a subway? Well, a subway, as you've noticed in the picture, it is a specialized train system that travels through the tunnels deep beneath the surface of a busy city. So, as noted in the materials here, subways are highly efficient for city travel. Why? Well, it's because they move underground. Okay? They do not have to worry about traffic jams. They do not have to worry about red lights or pedestrians on the street, which allows them, if you think about it, it allows them to move thousands of people across the city very quickly. So, in different parts of the world, subways are also called the metro, which is the underground or the tube. Okay, that is a subway. Now, so this is an underground transportation vehicle. Okay, so it is much preferred, of course, by the general public because it guarantees that where you're going, you will be able to go where you're going at the set time that you are, expecting for it to arrive because there are no hindrances, just like what I've mentioned: traffic, works. No traffic, no red lights, no pedestrians on the street, something like that. Now, how does this work? Well, to use a subway, you must go downstairs or use an elevator into an underground station. So you will wait on a platform for the train to arrive. So subways usually run on electricity and they use what we call third rail or overhead wires to get their power. And then most subway systems have different lines represented by different colors, like the red line or the blue line. No, you must check a map to see which line will take you to your destination because subways are so fast and arrive every few minutes. So they are preferred choice for people who live and work in crowded urban areas. Okay? So that is a subway. Now, if you've tried riding a subway, no, riding a subway is really a social experience because you have this, you are like sharing a small space with many different people from all walks of life. So during, especially during rush hour, where this is the time when everyone is going or leaving work, the subway cars can be very or can become very crowded, and many people have to stand while holding onto metal poles for balance because there are no enough seats to sit, right? So despite the crowds, it is one of the most eco-friendly ways to travel because one subway train can take hundreds of cars off the street, which reduces pollution and making the city air clearer for everyone. Okay? That is subway. I think we're all familiar with this one, right? For a moment, let me just take a sip of water because my throat is really itchy. I'm so sorry, everyone. Okay, I'm back. For a moment, for a moment. Okay. Thank you for waiting. Um, let's continue with another, how'd you call it? Another public transportation. Okay. What is the next one? Again, the first one is subway. What is the next one? That is a taxi. Again, taxi. This one, we're familiar with this one. This is a convenient, very convenient personal ride, but expensive. Well, what is a taxi? A taxi, if you're not familiar with a taxi, the word taxi, it is often called a cab, CAB. Okay? It is a car that you hire to take you exactly where you want to go. Which, if we try to compare it with buses or subway or trains, um, those two, it follow a set path, no? It follows routes. In comparison to that, taxis provide convenience in a way that it is point to point ride, which means that a taxi will pick you up at your front door and drop you off exactly at the entrance of your destination. So most taxis are painted bright colors. Why? Because like yellow or white, because they so that they are gonna so that they are easy to see in a busy street. So that is a taxi. Now, how to get a taxi? There are three main ways to get a taxi ride. How would you do it? First is hailing. When we say hailing, you stand on a sidewalk. You wave your hand. No, you wave your hand at a taxi driving by. So if the light on top of the car is on, it means the taxi is empty and available to pick you up. Okay. If not hailing, no, you can also do calling. You can call a taxi company on the phone and ask them to send a car to your location at a specific time. And if not hailing, if not calling, the trend today is using apps or applications. No, today many people use what we call ride sharing apps on their smartphones to request a private car. Once you're inside, the driver uses a device called a meter to calculate the cost of your trip based on how far you travel and how much time it takes. So that is a taxi. Okay. Now, it is really much more expensive than subway or buses. But why do people choose taxis? Well, taxis are popular. No, popular. This is a popular choice when you have like a lot of heavy bags, when you are in a hurry, or when you are traveling late at night and buses are no longer running. So they are really more expensive, everyone. No, in comparison to a bus or a subway. Although, yeah, it is expensive. So we expect that they offer comfort and privacy to you because you are on your own. You own the whole ride. No, you're the only passenger for that particular vehicle. So, with that in mind, you can sit back, you can relax while a professional driver navigates the traffic for you. It is a very helpful service for travelers who are in a new city and do not know their way around the local streets. Okay, that is a taxi. We move on to tram. Tram, this is a very eco-friendly street train. It is an old type of public transportation which is not available to all countries. Okay, now what is a tram? A tram is a type of rail vehicle that travels on tracks built directly into the public streets. As mentioned here, trams run on tracks and are eco-friendly. So they look like a mix between a bus and a train because they share the road with cars and with bicycles. They move at a slower, safer speed than subway. So trams are very common in Europe and parts of Australia, and they add a very charming and classic look to a city's landscape. Okay, that is a tram. Now, how does this particular public transportation vehicle works? Well, it is powered by electricity. How? One of the best things about trams is that they are almost always powered by electricity. If you look up, you will see a web of wires above the street. Oh, this one, right? And then the tram has a metal arm on its roof called a pantograph that touches these wires to get power. Because they do not burn gasoline or diesel. Trams are really quiet and they produce zero exhaust or smoke, which can harm the environment. This makes them a green and sustainable choice for modern cities that want to reduce their carbon footprint. Okay? So that is a tram. Now, using a tram is really easy. It's very easy because the stations are located right on the sidewalk in the public road. You simply wait at the tram stop, hop on, and then buy a ticket, and then there you go. No, trams often have large windows, which makes them a favorite for tourists who want to see the sights of the city while they travel. So they are perfect for short trips across the downtown area or for moving between different neighborhoods. With their ding ding bell sound and smooth movement, trams are a beloved part of the public transport family that really helps keep our cities moving efficiently and, of course, cleanly because they are eco friendly. Okay? Okay, that is a tram. Now, in this slide, we talked about subway, we talked about taxi, we talked about tram. We move on to monorail, cable car, and trolley. Okay. Let's start with monorail. No, this is the future above the streets. This is basically opposite to subway because subway, if you remember it correctly, it is underground, while monorail is it travels above city streets. So a monorail, it is a specialized train that travels on a single rail rather than two tracks. As mentioned here, a monorail travels above city streets. Okay? So this is called elevated transport because the monorail moves high in the air on tall concrete pillars. So it never has to stop for traffic lights or cars. And it looks very futuristic and is often found in large modern cities or at big theme parks like Disney World. How does this work? The word mono means one, which describes a single beam the train sits on. Some monorails straddle the beam, like sitting on a bicycle, while others hang underneath it. Underneath it, yeah, because they run on electricity and they use rubber wheels and a smooth concrete rail. They are very quiet and move with a gentle gliding feeling, which makes them, a very comfortable way to travel through a busy, noisy city. So there's this a bird's eyes view because passengers really love the monorail because of that particular view that they can see. Since you are traveling above the buildings, you're traveling above the trees, you can see the whole city laid out below you. It is a very efficient way to move people through crowded areas where there is no more room on the ground for new roads or traditional train tracks. So the monorail is a perfect example of how clever engineering can help solve the problem of city traffic. Okay, that is monorail. Okay, any questions so far, everyone? Let me see. Okay, no questions, I think. Well, anyway, let's continue with cable car. Cable car is a mountain climber. This is the cable car, as you can see. Well, what is a cable car? A cable car is um it is a unique vehicle that is pulled through the air by a very strong metal cable. So here it is mentioned that you can see that a cable car offers scenic mountain views. So these vehicles are really designed to travel up very steep hills or mountains where it would be impossible for a car or a regular train to drive. So they are often used at different ski resorts or in how do you call it, in beautiful mountain villages to help tourists reach the top of the peaks, okay, or the mountains. Now, this particular vehicle, it moves without an engine. How? Well, the most interesting about a cable car, as I mentioned, is that the car itself usually does not have an engine. Instead, a massive engine at the station rotates a giant wheel that pulls the cable in a continuous loop. So the cable car grips onto this moving rope and is carried along with it. Because the engine is far away, the ride is incredibly quiet, allowing passengers to enjoy the sounds of nature as they rise into the clouds. And of course, this is really a sky high adventure in a way that riding a cable is an adventure for your senses. As you move higher, the houses below get smaller and smaller. Sorry. Until no, they get smaller and smaller until they look like dots. So you can see for many miles in every direction. In some cities built on very steep hills, like San Francisco or Medellin, um, cable cars are used every day by local people just to get to work or go home because that's the only transportation vehicle they can use. So whether it is for a mountain vacation or a daily commute, you know, the cable car is a slow, steady, and beautiful way to travel. Okay, that is a cable car. Sorry for that. For a moment, I'm back. I'm so sorry. As again, I've mentioned earlier, I'm so sorry if there are times that I may pause with my lesson because I really have to since I'm not feeling well. But anyway, please bear with me all throughout. No, I'm going to continue. Where were we? Next is the trolley. This is the heart of the neighborhood. It looks the same with tram. Now, what's the difference between the two? Let's start by defining what a trolley is. Now, a trolley, it is a classic, charming vehicle that moves through a neighborhood on trucks built into the city street. Okay? As noted here, a trolley moves through a charming neighborhood. So they're very similar to the trams that we discussed earlier. Trolleys are often painted in bright traditional colors like red or green and have large wooden set of seats and brass bells that go ding ding to let people know that they are coming. So this is really a friendly way to travel. So that is a trolley. So trolleys are they're more of like designed for short trips within the community. They really move at a slow, relaxed pace, which makes them very safe for residential areas where children are playing or people are walking their dogs, you know. And because they are part of the street, you can usually see the trolley coming from far away. It is a very human scale type of transport that helps a neighborhood feel friendly and connected. So it is just like a tram, as I mentioned earlier. Just like a tram, a trolley gets its power from electric wires hanging above the road. So a long, long pole on the roof of the trolley touches the wire to bring power to the motor. This makes a trolley very clean because it doesn't produce any smoke or smell, just like with tram. So many cities that once removed their trolleys are now bringing them back because they are an eco-friendly way to help people move around without using cars. So a ride on a trolley is a trip back in time and a step toward a cleaner future because this is really an old transportation vehicle, the trolley. Okay? All right. Again, this is the public transportation, starting with subway. Next is taxi, followed by tram, and then monorail, cable car, and trolley. Okay? All right. Any questions so far? None? Let's do a break. We'll 5-minute break. Okay? uh, take your water, drink your water, take a little bit of snacks, and then, go wherever you are. Be back, um, be back by what time is it now? Be back, be back by 6:30. Okay? All right. You can rest now. Okay, we're back. I hope everybody is settled in. We're back. We're going to continue with the other half of our lesson tonight. Before that, I would just want to make sure that you are also back here in our stream. Everyone, please settle down and make yourself comfortable enough to continue listening to the rest of the lesson for this evening. Okay? All right. Before that, let's try to really make ourselves more comfortable by doing some simple exhaling and inhaling. Okay? On my cue, inhale, exhale. Again, inhale, exhale. Okay. You just let out all those negativity inside your body, let out all those stress inside your body. Okay? All right. Again, I hope everybody is settled down. You can always use the chat box to really tell me if you are there, if you are listening to me, so that I can really see if you are listening to me. Okay? I am checking the chat box right now, and I will be constantly checking it from time to time. Okay? All right. Now we move on to the other half, no, the second half of our lesson. For the first half, again, we did the public transportation vehicle, which includes the subway, the taxi, and the tram, and monorail, cable car, and trolley. We move on to the traffic and road terms. So we move on to the language of the street. So, welcome back, everyone. We have spent our recent sessions looking at amazing machines that moves us through the world. So, from the cars that are on the streets um to the different public transportation vehicles. Different transportation vehicles. So that is what we've done so far, but have you ever wondered why these vehicles don't simply crash into each other? How does a driver know when it is safe to turn or where a person is allowed to walk, no? Across the street. So today we're going to learn about traffic and road terms. This is the hidden language of our cities. It is a system of lights, of colors, and symbols that tells us exactly what to do. So, without these rules, the world would be a very, very dangerous and chaotic place. So, we try to master these terms because you are not just improving your English, you are learning how to be safe, how to be smart, and of course how to be a confident traveler. So whether you are behind the steering wheel or walking on the sidewalk, these terms will help you navigate any city in the world. So let's head out and decode the secrets of the world together for a moment. Okay, I'm so sorry for that. Again, reminder to everyone that there are times like that I may have to pause because I am not really feeling well. Okay, maybe I had to cough or sneeze. Thank you for your understanding. Anyway, let's move on. Let's start with the traffic and road terms for our second half. Before that, oh, yes, traffic and road terms. So there are vocabulary pertaining to this. We are going to start with traffic light. Now, what is a traffic light? I know you are familiar with this one. Yeah, maybe you're not familiar with the term, but you are familiar with the picture, right? That is a traffic light. So a traffic light, it is an electronic signal located at intersections where two or more roads meet. So as mentioned here in the in the presentation, its primary job is to control the flow of vehicles safely. So think of the traffic light as digital police officer that stands in the middle of the street This particular officer, it tells everyone when it is their turn to move. So these lights use a universal language of colors that is the same almost everywhere in the world. There are actually three colors, although you can only see two colors in the picture, but there are three colors. What do we mean by these colors? No, a standard traffic light has three distinct sections, each with a very important meaning. What do we mean by this? So there is red, green, and yellow. Okay, the yellow one was not shown here in the picture, but anyway, there are three main colors: red, yellow, or green. Now let's start with red. What do we mean by red? Well, red, this is the most critical color. It means to stop. Okay, it means stop. So when the light is red, all vehicles must come to a complete halt and wait behind the line. Okay, that is red. And then yellow or amber, what do you mean by this? This means caution, or this means prepare to stop. It warns drivers that the light is about to change to red. So it is a signal to slow down, not to speed up. Okay, so that you can beat the light. No, it is yellow is not speeding up. It's not for speeding up. It's not a signal for speeding up, but it is a signal to slow down. Okay? All right. That is a yellow signal. And then the last one is green. What do we mean by green? Okay? What do we mean by green? This means go. Okay? So if the intersection is clear and safe, it is safe to really cross, the driver can move toward into the street and go on with their days. So that is a different meanings of each color. Again, red is for stop, yellow is for caution or to prepare to stop, and then green is for go. Okay? So that is traffic light. Now, why do we need them? I know that you understand why traffic lights are really necessary. Well, because traffic lights, it prevents accident, especially by ensuring that cars from different directions do not try to use the same space at the same time. So many modern traffic lights also have sensors under the road that can detect if a car is waiting, just to help the light decide when to change colors. So in some big cities, traffic lights are considered or connected to computers that coordinate the entire city's movement to reduce traffic jams. Okay? That is traffic light. Okay. Let's move on to the second term or second vocabulary. Crosswalk. Again, crosswalk. The pedestrian safety bridge. Again, crosswalk. So, what is a crosswalk? A crosswalk is a specifically designated area on the road where pedestrians, unlike people who are waiting, or yeah, people are waiting and walking, they're allowed to cross the street. So, in my material here, it is described as a safe zone for people to move from one side of the road to the other, because that's basically it. Now, that's basically crosswalk. You can usually identify you can usually identify a crosswalk by the thick bold white lines painted on a dark asphalt. Because these lines often look like the stripes on a zebra, many people in English speaking countries call them zebra crossings. No, because it's black and white. So that is a crosswalk. Now, how to use crosswalk safely? Because it's on your own type of thing. Even though the crosswalk is really a safe zone, you must still be very careful because we do not know. No? So what are you going to do before you cross the street? You stop and look. No, before you step onto the road, you should stop at the edge of the sidewalk and then wait for a signal. So many crosswalks have their own lights. A walking man symbol means you can cross, while a hand symbol means you must wait. Next is eye contact. It is always a good idea to look at the drivers in the stopped cars to make sure they see you before you walk in front of them. Okay? That is those are different ways to really walk safely across the street. You stop and look, you wait for the signal, and then you do eye contact. Okay? So that is crosswalk. Now, I think we know that the road is a shared space, right? So it is a shared responsibility because while drivers must be careful to look for people in crosswalks, pedestrians must also be responsible and only cross at these designated spots. Crossing the street in the middle of a block where there is no crosswalk is called jaywalking, and it can be very dangerous because drivers do not expect to see people there. Okay? Because that is not a pedestrian crossing. So be responsible. It is a shared responsibility, not just only to drivers, okay? But also to all people. Again, that is a crosswalk. Let's move on to street sign. Okay? What is a street sign? A street sign, it is a board placed at the side of the road or hanging above it just to provide essential directions and information in an easy way. Just as book has a table of contents to tell you what is inside, street signs provide the instruction manual for the road. So they tell drivers where they are, which way to turn, what the local rules are, know all those things. So there are types of street signs. The signs that you use different shapes and colors so the drivers can really recognize them from far away, even if they cannot read the words yet, because they are already familiar with the symbol. Okay. Now, in street signs, there are different shapes and colors. First is the regulatory sign. These tell you the laws of the road. For example, a red stop sign is an octagon or eight sides, and a speed limit sign is usually a white rectangle with black numbers. So those are regulatory signs. No, you regulate the um different thing about this street, about the street. Okay? For a moment. Okay. Let's continue. Again, those are regulatory signs. Aside from what we call regulatory signs, we also have warning signs. Warning signs, these are usually bright yellow and diamond shaped. So they warn you about hazards such as dead end, a slippery road or a pedestrian crossing ahead. So that is warning signs. Now, information signs, these are often green or blue. They give you directions. They tell you how many miles it is to the next city or where to find a hospital or a gas station. Okay? That is information signs. Now, with all these signs, not in streets or what we call street sign, why does it matter? Why signs matter in road? Well, everyone, without street signs, we would all be lost. No, they help us navigate to new places and they remind us to stay safe. Even if you don't have a GPS or a map, you can find your way almost anywhere just by looking the guide signs on the highway. They're the um, final way or final piece of the puzzle that keeps our massive transportation system organized and easy to use. Okay, that is a street sign. Again, we've talked about traffic light, crosswalk, and street sign. Let's move on to safety gear. Okay, we have the license, helmet, and seat belt. Now, what is a license? Let's start with the license. What is a license? As you can see in the picture, that is a document that permits you to drive a vehicle on public roads. However, To a student of English, it is important to understand that a license is much more than just a small piece of plastic with your photo on it. It is a legal contract between a driver and the government. So when you carry a license, you are telling the world that you have spent many hours practicing, you have spent many hours studying and learning about the complex rules of the road. So it is a sign of maturity and responsibility because in most countries, you cannot simply buy a license, you must earn it through a process of education and testing. Okay? That is a license. Next to that is the yeah. Before that, let's try to think about how have you ever had a license or do you have a license now? You know the journey to getting a license is really hard, right? The process of obtaining license usually involves two major steps. First, a student must pass a written test. This is where you prove you understand the language of the road, such as the meaning of different street signs, the colors of traffic lights, and the laws regarding their specific speed limits. Second, there is the road test. During this exam, a professional instructor sits in the car with you to watch how you handle the vehicle. So they check to see if you use mirrors, no, aside from mirrors, if you use if you signal before turning, if you signal before turning, and if you stay calm in a busy traffic. So only after you prove you are a safe driver do you receive your official permit. Okay? Okay. So that is a license. Now why it is important? Why is license very vital? Why is license is very important? Well, the license system exists to protect everyone. So if people were allowed to drive without training, the streets would be incredibly dangerous. So the license ensures that every person behind the steering wheel knows exactly what to do in an emergency. It also serves as a form of identification. So if a police officer stops a vehicle, the first thing they will ask for is the driver's license. This allows the officer to know who the driver is and to verify that they are legally allowed to be on the road. Without this small document, the organized system of transportation that we rely on every day would fall into total chaos. It is the key that opens the door to the world of driving. That is a license. Okay. We move on to helmet. Again, helmet. Now, what is a helmet? This one, the second one, everyone. Now, what is a helmet? A helmet is essential protection used when, how do you call it? You use it when riding a bicycle or a motorcycle. So while a car it has a strong metal body, glass windows, and heavy doors to protect the people inside, a cyclist is really exposed. This means there is nothing between the rider and the hard ground except the clothes they are wearing. And because the head is the most sensitive and important part of the human body, the internet was invented to act as a personal shield. It is a piece of safety equipment that every, guard or every rider, regardless of their age or experience, should wear every single time they get on a bike, their helmet. Okay? Now, how does this thing? Okay, so sorry for that. Let me just do a quick charging. Okay, all good. Again, we go back with helmet. Again, helmet, it is essential protection, no, you used when riding a bicycle or a motorcycle. Now, how does a helmet works? Well, a modern helmet, it is a masterpiece of safety engineering. It usually consists of three main layers. Okay, first is the outer shell. So the outer shell, this is the hard plastic exterior. Its job is to prevent sharp objects from falling, no, from piercing the helmet, and to allow the head to slide easily across the ground during a fall, which prevents neck injuries. So that is the outer shell of the helmet. Next to that is the liner. Well, what is the liner? This is the thick layer of foam inside the shell. Okay. So when a rider falls, this foam crashes or compresses. This action absorbs the energy of the impact so that the force does not go into the rider's brain. So that is the liner. Lastly, the straps. These are the fabric ribbons that clip under the chin. Their job is to keep the helmet firmly on the head so it does not fly off during an accident. Okay, that is a helmet. We have the outer shell, the liner, and the straps. So the helmet itself is really emphasizing safety first because it is very important. No? There, safety first is very important because many people think they do not need a helmet if they are only riding a short distance or if they are riding slowly. However, most accidents happen very close to home. Even a small fall at a slow speed can cause a serious head injury if you are not protected well. So, in many cities, the law requires children and adults to wear helmets because they are so effective at saving lives. Wearing a helmet is a sign of a smart cyclist. It shows that you have value your health and that you understand the risks of the road. It is a simple tool that turns a dangerous fall into fall. Okay? Anyway, that is a helmet. Again, that is a helmet. Now we move on to the seat belt. Now, this is the passenger's lifeline. Again, seat belt. Well, what is a seat belt? A seat belt is a safety strap that keeps passengers secure in the vehicle. So just like what you see in the picture, although you cannot see the seat belt itself. Okay. Anyway, again, this is a safety strap. So it is arguably the most successful safety intervention or invention in the history of transportation. Well, whether you are sitting in the front of the seat for a taxi, the black seat for family car, or in a seat on a large airplane, it costs more than that. Okay, of course, because we're paying for the convenience. No, that is a seat belt. Now, of course, it is a simple strap made of a very strong woven fabric that is designed to hold your body firmly in place, even if the vehicle stops with an extreme force. Okay? Okay. Now, upon using the seat belt, you hear clicks, right? The click. So when a vehicle is not moving, everything inside is also at moving. Okay? Because they're trying to find something. So, if a car traveling at 60 kilometers per hour, okay, and then you see fish and you sell it out, and then you try another color, okay, so um that is a seat belt, okay. So there is this particular thing that you use or you did, which is of course you use or you do This is the law of science called inertia. So without a seat belt, a passenger would hit the dashboard of the seat in front of them with a lot of force. So it is very important that you do, or yeah, you do your seat belt. Okay, prioritize your um life. Okay, so that is a seat belt. Now, the seat belt has a restraint feature, which means that it catches the passenger of the moment the car slows down. So it spreads, the force of the stop across the strongest parts of the human body. So the shoulders and the hips, no, it spreads to that. There is also what we call the locking mechanism. What does this mean? Modern seatbelts have a sensor that feels when the car breaks down any kind of problems or concerns. Well, anyway, that's the locking mechanism. Okay. Next to that is so far we've talked about the restraint and the locking mechanism of the seat, but again, always prioritize your safety first before anything else. Okay. So in the past, let's try to go back in the past as to see how seatbelt is really progressing. In the past, many people did not wear seat belts because they found them uncomfortable. However, today we know that wearing seatbelt reduces the risk of death, right? Especially in a car accident by more than 80% or 50%. It's a passive safely lecture or a feature, okay? Meaning it works automatically to protect you as long as you're able to really use that particular feature, okay? So that is a seat belt. So it is a passive safety feature, meaning it works automatically to protect you as long as the punishment or as long as you remember to buckle up. It takes actually everyone, it takes like only 2 seconds to click the seatbelt into place, but of course those 2 seconds can be the difference between a safe trip and a tragedy. So do it like that. And of course, it is important to remind you all students that every journey, no matter how you got to here, how short it must have been for you, it must begin with the sound of a seatbelt clicking into place. If you go somewhere, okay, it is the most important part in that this year. Anyway, that is a seatbelt. And I think that's the last one. Yes, that is the last one for today. Any questions, everyone? I'm gonna give you 1 minute to think about any question, and I will answer it. Okay, I think there are no questions. No, I'll just not wait more for more questions if there are. Anyway, for this evening, what did we talk about? We started with public transportation vehicles. So we talk about public transport, traffic and road terms, and the safety gear. So let's start with public transport. What did we discuss? We discussed the subway, we discussed the taxi, we discussed the tram. Okay? Public transportation vehicle meaning that it is transit. So the general public or people, especially if they chose it, they will ride this one. Next is taxi, which is very convenient because it is point to point, and then tram as eco-friendly vehicle. Next, we have the monorail, which is completely opposite to the subway because subway is underground, monorail is above the ground. Okay, and it is quite faster. Next is the cable car, which is for the meme as well as um for the scene itself. Okay, so that is a monorail. and then cable car. Last one is trolley, just like the same with tram. Okay, it is also eco-friendly. After that, we talked about traffic and road terms. First is traffic light. Again, there are three colors: red, yellow, and green. Red means stop, yellow means caution or to prepare to stop, and then green is for go. Okay. Next is crosswalk. This is the designated area for pedestrians to cross the street so that they can avoid jaywalking. Okay. Next, we have street sign. Again, street sign. So that is traffic road term. First is the traffic lights, which is done in a tarpaulin, and then crosswalk where the pedestrians are going to walk, and then last one is street sign. Okay. After that, we ended with safety gear, which includes the license, the helmet, and the seat belt. Okay. Any questions? Any questions, everyone? Please don't hesitate to ask because I will always acknowledge you. Any questions so far? Do you have any? I think there are none, right? Okay. All right. There are none. There are no questions. Well, thank you all for today. No, what a productive session we have had this evening. We have moved beyond the vehicles and the vehicles themselves and mastered of life terms that govern our busy duties today. We learned that a traffic jam is more than just a delay, it is a delay. Okay, this is really challenging. Anyway, that is what those are our evening. So learn these terms on your own, try to really memorize these on your own, everyone, because it is very important so as it will contribute or add to your vocabulary, especially English vocabulary. Okay, all right, do not lose hope. Anyway, that is simply just a tool, and then um be proud. Okay, be proud, everyone. You should be very proud of the work you have done throughout the entire transportation unit. Okay, that is all for today. Thank you, and I hope to see you all next meeting. Goodbye, everyone.